welcome Hannah and Jude to TradReviews and welcome to our viewers. So today Hannah Petrizzi and Jude Arthur are going to be interviewed because of their contribution to Catholic art. So to put us in the picture here. So both of you are Catholic amateur film producers or makers. So Hannah, your St. Genesius Films, and Jude, your Black Cross Studios. Is that correct? Okay. So you're both directors of these amateur art things, whatever you want to call. So first, before we go into this, Hannah, I want to know what is the backstory for the name of your St. Genesius Films, because that's a very unusual name. So I've never heard of that saint. So can you please enlighten us all?
Yeah, sure. So when we started making the films at first, we just kind of, we just started making, we didn't really have like a studio per se. It was just sort of something we did. And then when we wanted to share them, I thought, or make a YouTube channel, I was like, well, I need a name. So what's a good name for our channel about saint films? And St. Genesius was an early Christian martyr who was actually an actor himself. And he actually would make fun of the Christians in his performances in front of actually Emperor Diocletian. And he had like just this amazing conversion when he was, I think, actually trying to basically just, make fun of a Christian, and kind of got the grace of God and responded to it, and then was martyred himself. So he's a very good, role model for us and saint for people who are portraying, now obviously he's a saint. So,
yes.
But yeah, as an actor and then as a martyr. So
right. And is he listed as like a patron of actors?
I believe he's the patron saint of actors. I believe.
Right, that's good to know. And so Jude, where does the Black Cross Studios name come from?
Well, comes from a similar sort of situation which happened to Hannah. Not so much the saint, but so much as we obviously were making movies for a while just as kids and stuff. And we didn't really have a studio name, because why would you have a studio name? Actually, to be professional, we did have one which was literally just called Colorama Studios, which is the name of the suburb we live in, and that just doesn't really work as well. And as more recently we started getting into more higher level movie making, my brother Samuel and I were talking, we needed to come up with a good studio name. And all the good ones were taken, St. Genesius, which we wouldn't have thought of, but so that was taken. And we both, especially, we have a, fascination, I should say, of historically the Teutonic Knights, or the Teutonic Order. Very interesting order from the Middle Ages. And their symbol is the Black Cross of Jerusalem. So I thought, well, I like those guys, so I'll give them a bit of credit, and I'll name my studios after them, which is actually one of a movie I would like to make is actually about the Teutonic Knights, so that would be kind of parallel to the name Black Cross Studios. So yeah, it's basically because of the Teutonic Order and how we like them, and how a lot of people don't really know about them. So I think a lot of people will wonder, why is it called Black Cross Studios? And I can say because of them, and they'll be like, wait, who are them? So then I can tell them.
Well, everyone watching this now knows.
Yeah.
And you can really tell the difference between a male director versus a female.
Yeah.
I don't think any female would have chosen something named after Teutonic Knights. So before we go into what exactly you are responsible for producing, I wanted to find out, Hannah, when did you first start taking an interest in this sort of these projects?
Yeah. So at first, we didn't really do much of anything to do with that, like when I was really little. But when I was about 11 or so, I was in a play at church. And at first I didn't actually want to be in it at all. But my mom's like, no, you're doing it, so I had to do it. And then I discovered I actually really, really enjoyed acting. So it was just kind of like, I had never done anything like that before, and I was like, oh, that's really fun. So did some more plays. Then I kind of directed a few of my own plays at church. So that was kind of what it was for a while. And then we also just kind of dabbled in making just silly, fun home films, like, every kid, like playing around, you're playing with the editing software, you're making stuff, but nothing, really worth mentioning.
This is this generation of traditional Catholic children.
Right.
Our generation didn't have access to that technology,
Yeah,
so we
so
did
this
just
is-
muck
yeah.
around with these things. That's really interesting.
So that was sort of the early, you just use the editor that comes with, the computer that we have, in the family space. So you just, you're playing around with that, making silly movies. But then once I got more into making the saint plays, and I kind of wanted to get into making more movie type of things. I was kind of interested in that. I had a play ready to go, and then some people at church kind of pulled out, and it wasn't really going to happen. So I was like, well, I have the script. Why don't I just cut it back, and we'll just do it with just my family at home. We'll just make it short, and I want to do some kind of movie thing anyway. So that's how we did Little Rose. It was a longer play originally, and it was more about her whole life, but we just cut it back to St. Rose of Lima's, like her very young childhood. But basically, it was kind of my response to, I just really love acting. And I just realized it's not something I can pursue in today's world very easily in terms of, trying to make it, like, get into, acting career, because it's just, there's so much, garbage out there. It would just be so hard to navigate. But the best I could do is just sort of make my own things. So just sort of came from just loving doing it, and then just having fun with my siblings and saying, hey, let's do this, because we can, and that's the best I can do right now. So
yeah, that's great. And we'll talk about, what the fruits of that have been, and will continue to be soon. And so, what year roughly did you think you started? Well, how long ago was this, like, in seed?
Yeah, so the first time we made a short film, St. Rose of Lima, the Little Rose, was in 2017.
Right, so you've come a very long way.
And then we did 2018 is when we, I believe, did the next one. Then we took a little more time in between the others to film and edit and stuff like that. But it started in 2017 was the actual beginning of making Saint films.
Oh, wow. That's really great. And you must have been quite young still. So, you're still young now. So, Jude, when did you first start in your movie making career?
Well, I guess it started with my older siblings. It was kind of a hobby that passed down the generations and kind of stuck with me. Because I remember Jen, well, I don't remember specifically, but there are some movies that our older sister Jen, she made with some of her friends, Genevieve, who's now Sister Mary Bernard. She made some movies with friends and Matt and older siblings. And then Angela, the next girl, she started making movies. She made quite a few, obviously just homemade movies, fun kids movies. And there was a camera we had in the family, and it was kind of like we'd all go through our spurts of movie making. Whoever could get their hands on the camera would be that director of the year or whatever. And then I got my own camera because I could never get my hands on that one. And because of that, I felt like my own director. So me and my brothers, well, some of my sisters sometimes, but not so much, we would just make lots and lots of little homemade movies as kids these days do. And we just did so many. And just the more we made, we were just getting less satisfied with our products, because the more we were making, we just wanted more. So it was just a journey of slowly making all these movies and just trying to get a little bit better each time. And also, a big turning point was actually when I saw some movies from St. Genesius films, and my response in my head was, oh, I can do better than that. So, not because it was not good, but just because I felt like, oh, if there's other people out there making movies, I can do it too.
We'll let the viewers of your final products just make that decision.
Yeah, well, I didn't really think of it as much competition. I was thinking more like, well, one thing that obviously as boys, me and my brothers did a lot was action. We were just running around killing each other, and that was the movies we'd make. And I mean, a lot of people enjoy action, so I thought, a lot of people enjoy even our homemade movies. Just having action was fun for people to watch. So I thought, well, St. Genesius Films is making all these inspiring movies, and it's good to have these clean, inspiring movies out there. And I was thinking, well, I can also make clean movies, but I'll do like action-packed stuff. So, we could have
action-packed, but still with more.
Yeah, with still more. Well, I think what we target our Black Cross Studios is still movies with good morals and Catholic themes, but we like to have a bit of fun action in it. So because that's basically what we did for so many years, that we just got so good at that. That's our strong point, is our action. So we had to kind of bring everything else to match that, which we still haven't yet. But so all the good scenes in our movies are the action ones. So yeah, you could say it started with my older siblings, and then St. Genesius Films, and then just obviously more recently my older brother Matthew was telling me, oh, you're actually getting good at this, you know, you can actually make something of it. And so yeah, that's kind of, I could say probably about, well, the first movie that I made with my brother Samuel was probably 2000 and, I forget what year, but I was about 10 and he was about 7. And it was literally just me running around with a stick shooting him. It was so bad we had to throw the disc out because it gave my parents a headache because it looked like crazy. So that was the first movie we made, and then from there we just kind of made all these action movies. And then until about 2019, so about 5 years ago, we made a movie which probably the first one we could actually call a movie. Even though it's not really a movie, it's just a little thing I put together. We filmed. It's a Lord of the Rings Tolkien movie, which is not able to be published. It's full of copyright material like music and clips. But that's the first actual movie, and so I think that was a big turning point because that was a long process, and I just learnt so much through that one, and then that obviously led to our next movie, which will be discussed shortly.
Okay, so the movie that's soon to be released that's Black Cross Studios made has at least one scene that was filmed in this room. Now, Jude, Hannah, and myself, I'm Theresa, director of True Restoration Press. I didn't introduce myself properly. So, Theresa, Hannah, Jude, all here together in Melbourne, Australia. We've gone to Mass this morning at Mary Helper Christian's Chapel and then come back. And this particular room was used for at least one scene in that recent movie. I remember because you turned this room upside down and inside out to do the set. So that will come out soon. So since St. Genesius Films has a whole history of already released films, and you're already extremely well known in the traditional Catholic world, I think we'll talk a little bit about St. Genesius Films. So, Hannah, the first question that we're all interested in knowing is what inspired this endeavor?
Yeah, basically I think I kind of touched on that a little bit with the last one. Yeah. Is that I just kind of came from I just loved acting and telling a story, and I also just sort of telling the story of the saints specifically. Right. Was how I kind of started with being in plays about saints. So okay. I kind of went from that into making movies about the saints. Right.
So it was the plays and that whole incident that you talked about that just inspired you to run with it.
Right. And then when we got a good reaction from the first one we made, a lot of people, really enjoyed it. We thought it was a lot of fun. We got to, just make it together, see really like, oh, this is actually, watchable. Like it wasn't terrible. So, and people seemed to enjoy it. We thought like, oh, let's keep doing this. And every time that like someone comes back and tells me how much they enjoyed it, or how much their children enjoy it, or how they don't have to worry when they put it on in front of their children, it makes me feel like I'm doing something good, that I can put something edifying.
As a mother, it is always hard to find something that you can put your children in front of and say, you can watch this and you know that it's safe
and it's even edifying. Hopefully.
Yes. Well, I actually had never heard of St. Genesius Films until Father Cicada, the late Father Cicada, promoted it somewhere. I can't remember exactly when, but he promoted it on some avenue, and that was the movie about St. Elizabeth.
I think actually he wrote a little article about the Saint. The Curie of Ars, a saint in hiding.
Right, was that the one?
Yes, because he wrote a little article on his.
Oh, and then you launched that one after.
Yes.
So so far, what has St. Genesius Films finalized and actually produced and put out there? So name them.
Short films.
Yes.
Yeah. So the first one we did was Little Rose, which is about St. Rose of Lima as a young child. Then we did A Saint in Hiding, which is about the Curie of Ars, just another little portion of his life. And then we did Our Mother Elizabeth, which covered St. Elizabeth of Hungary. That was more actually across like pretty much her whole life. So starting as just showing a little bit of her childhood and then into when she
Is that the longest one you've made?
That is the longest one in terms of, the minutes that run. And then our most recent one is Day of Glory, which is about St. Philomena. And that is you know, kind of what we know about Saint Philomena from what they found in the catacombs and private revelation, and that's basically just this period of her martyrdom, which is what we know about.
Right.
So those are the ones we've made and produced, and they're all on YouTube.
And we'll add the links in the show description on this YouTube, and so everyone who hasn't seen them yet, if there's anyone left in the world who hasn't, they know where to go to have a look at those. That's awesome. Did research for the Cure of Ars, obviously that would have brought up Saint Philomena. Did that inspire that connection, or
That
not
actually
really? It was just
did it. It
independent.
wasn't really because of that.
Right.
And yes, obviously he did have a devotion to her, and there's some really touching, you know,
Yeah.
stories about his relationship with her. But mainly it's just someone actually requested and said, I really like if you made a film about Saint Philomena. And I was like, okay, maybe that's a thought. So I kind of got the wheels turning, and we got the script going. And then my sisters really love Saint Philomena, have a devotion to her. So when my little sister, who's actually just recently entered the convent, really was excited to play her. So it was like, it kind of just came out of someone asking, and then our family's just devotion to her. But not exactly related to the Cure of Ars, but it is funny because it is a connection there.
So there's a sister in the convent right now who's an ex-movie star.
Yes.
That's kind of
And did a lot behind the scenes too, a lot of help behind the scenes,
yes, I bet.
sets
There's a lot
and
of
costumes, and you know, she was the other camera person. So yeah, she's done a lot.
Okay, on that vein, I think our listeners would be, or viewers would be interested in knowing if share with us any interesting or amusing or absolutely hilarious behind the scenes, like true stories, what
Right.
really goes on and what has gone on.
Right.
Because this is obviously mostly your family.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, as you could see from anyone who watches our little blooper reels, there's just a lot of fun and laughter that goes on behind the serious scenes that, you know, the final take looks a lot different before it gets there. But there's a lot of fun things that happen. Just, you know, people messing up lines repeatedly. Often it's the same word they just can't get right. Or just forgetting a line, or you know, people look at each other and just start laughing because you know,
siblings.
Exactly,
You
it's
just
siblings.
look at them
This
in
is
their-
siblings,
in their-
and
In the costume,
Yeah.
and the part, and you just want to laugh.
so we try to make, you know, our productions look professional, but behind the scenes we're siblings. So
Yes, yes.
And a funny story from when we made Day of Glory was we're all out there in costume one day. You know, it's like a hot summer day. We're out on like the front porch, and we got like Diocletian and his, you know, stuff. We have a guard, you know, in armor. We have my sister with her chains on, and then a post guy comes to deliver a package, and they're all freaking out, like, we can't let see us like this. I'm like, guys, we have a camera, they'll know it's just, you know, we're filming. But anyway, they all run away. And I think it happened twice, like another day, the same guy.
It should have been called a safety hiding.
Yeah, it's for this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the
funny.
same guy came like another day, and we're all like doing the same thing, and it was funny. But they're all freaking out, and
That is funny.
just feel
I
like
wonder
really
what the
self-conscious.
postman's story is
That's
about.
right.
Hey, I went to
His
this house,
house,
and there all these children
yeah.
shrieking and hiding, and I knew them.
There were chains involved.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun, and it's been very wholesome pastime for Catholic children to do these things. And the reason why I really wanted to promote these productions is because it's very important for us to support young or any Catholic artists, and it's very important that we get this stuff out there because we've got the technology, and males will do it, and so there's an alternative to the horrible stuff that's being pumped out all the time.
Yeah, if we don't do it, who's going to do it?
Exactly, and yeah, that's right. So now, Jude, I'm going to ask you the same questions, and some of them you might have partially answered, but the first question is, what inspired this endeavour? But you kind of already answered that, so if you don't want to continue, but...
Well, I can sort of...
sorry, yes.
Unless this is a future question, I can sort of lead into what... I can sort of say what led to the making of the other movie, which is...
The one that's finished?
The one that's finished. There is a bit of a backstory behind that one, but if that is a future question...
Well, the question is, what sorts of movies have you made? So I know that you have several in the making, but I know that one has been finally produced. So we'll talk about that one. You can say the name, anything like that, you want to name it, and what inspired you to do that one?
Well, the one we've just finished, which took a long time, is the one. It's called Land of Conflict. It's a movie about the early Australian days. A lot of Australian history in there. That was inspired for multiple reasons. One was, well, one of the little reasons is just because we make movies and there are a lot of convert men showing up, and I thought I can use these and make some movies with all these actors. I think there's this thing, I got to a certain point where the first thing I think about someone is, can this person act in any of my movies? So I saw a lot of guys, and I actually used the Battle for the Mountain, that little homemade movie. I showed them, and they loved it, and I was like, do you want to act in it? Do you want to act in our next movie? And they were like, yeah, sure. So I got a lot of volunteers. I know a lot of people would kill for free actors, so...
Well, a lot of our viewers are American, and they probably know very little, if possibly nothing, about
That's true.
Australian history. So we're not going to give a history lesson, but give a nutshell of the early days of the Catholic Church in Australia and why that is an inspirational thing to make a movie.
Well, yeah, so obviously I got all those guys together, and so then my next reason, which is basically, I just knew that a lot of people don't know much about Australian history. Even I didn't know much about Australian history. So I researched into it. I just knew about one period because my sister, so Sister Mary Bernard, who is Genevieve, she wrote a book which actually got published. It's called Bloodstained Gum Leaf. And that is basically about an early persecution period in Australian history under Governor Darling.
English Protestants.
English Protestants, yeah, well, obviously the early days, Australia was just a convict land for the Irish, specifically, Irish mostly, and obviously the English Protestants were always very nasty to the Irish Catholics, especially in Australia because it was just a convict land. So for a very, very long period, they were just constantly
being
oppressed by the English. So our movie is basically based in a small period because there were as the different English governors came in, some were good, some were nice, some were not so nice. So this is a period basically under one who was not so nice, whose name was Governor Darling.
Not a fitting name, because
not a great antagonistic name, but and yeah, so it's basically, so the movie itself, it's based on true events. There are some fictional characters, some fiction.
So I think it would
be historical.
St. Genesius, Hannah's productions are just purely historical fact. So yours would be, the genre would be historical fiction.
Yes.
So some stories are true, but some of it's fictional.
Yes.
Right.
There are a lot of true, it's based on true events, and there are a lot of true characters and a lot of things in there that did happen. But there is enough. In order to get a substantial story to make a movie, I had to go into fiction because there just wasn't enough. We just didn't have enough to make specifically about that whole period. So I had to sit on a smaller scale of like a smaller group of people that were affected by that, which is similar to Jen's or Sister Mary Bernard's book. That also was historical fiction. And actually, I used a lot of her characters, a lot of some. So
you brought your sister's published book. She's now in the convent. So there's the ex-movie star, there's the ex-published author, but you brought her book to life.
Yes.
So she doesn't know about this yet, by the way, and she's not going to be watching this. So she will find out. We'll let her know in our next.
Well, I did before she went to the convent. I got her permission to make her movie into a book at some point.
Her book into a movie.
Sorry, her book into a movie at some point. Just because you got to do it professionally and get the author's permission, get all the copyright and stuff. And she was like, "Yeah, go ahead." So even though it's not specifically that book, that's a different story. But I did use a lot of characters and a lot of just surrounding facts and things like that. So I could say the movie is partially based off that. So it's based off that, so off her book, off history, and just off. A lot of guys who want to shoot each other. So,
right, we're getting a bit of an idea here. Persecutions, men getting shot. So, before I move on to the other fresh lot of questions for both of you, I'll just one more question for you, Jude, which I also asked Hannah. Do you have any interesting or amusing, behind the scenes stories that are worth sharing?
Well, there's obviously there's always so much. So. I could sit here for 3 hours and still have a lot to. But I think just one funny thing that comes to mind is actually not in the Land of Conflict movie we were making, even though there was a lot of funny things that happened behind the scenes there. But I just remember when we were making the Battle for the Mountain movie, that Tolkien one, we were all out, similar to what happened to Hannah and her siblings. We were out doing movie. We were all in costume. We were all dressed up as dwarves. Even my sister, she had a beard and a wig. We were all dressed up in these little dwarven outfits. All the taller boys, so Sam and myself, were on our knees to match the shorter people. So we were dressed up as dwarves in our outfits, and it was just outside there near the public walking track. And a man was walking down, and all our reactions was to run off and hide. So we all did, except for Blaze. He had no fear.
So tell our viewers who Blaze is.
Blaze is our youngest sibling.
How old was he at the time?
He would have been 7 or 8 at the time, or even he would have been 7 at the time. So a little boy with no fear. We were all had enough human respect that we had to flee. So this person's walking past. We all fled. He stayed there. He's holding this big warhammer. It's a toy rubber warhammer with this big white beard and this big white wig. And he just glares at this man and holds the warhammer and just watches the guy walk past. And the guy is kind of creeped out as Blaze is just glaring at him. We're all hiding and we're all like, Blaze, come here. And he's just glaring at the man. And that's just one of the things. Blaze is pretty much one of the stars of our thing. He is one of the best actors actually I have. I think there's just something about, I find that he commits a lot to the movie, because he just has no human respect, which is a big thing for a lot of actors. So he just doesn't have that. So he's actually one of the better actors. But that's
interesting.
Topic.
So it doesn't grow out of that. So Hannah, thanks for sharing all that. I had no idea, because their whole world, I really don't know what's going on, except for they're filming, and they're turning our house inside out and upside down, and they'd be part of the house and asking to go here and asking to go there, but to do filming. So on that vein, what challenges do you think any budding movie makers, Catholic movie makers, might come across, or what challenges did you come across along the way, and how did you overcome them?
I think for movie making, you're pretty much going to get challenged with everything. Every aspect, you're going to have a challenge. Let's see, some things that come to mind though are, I think just, even though we mostly film within our family, still just trying to, especially recently with people getting busy, just getting everyone's schedules to line up, getting everyone to film together at the same time, that can be a bit challenging. And also, I think just little things with equipment that go wrong that you just don't, at last minute, you don't anticipate that this thing's not working, or, like my focus suddenly just decided to kind of not work properly when we started filming Day of Glory, so I had to end up working with the manual focus, which was new for me, so kind of had to work out the kinks there. So that was kind of a learning curve of trying this, because the autofocus was just decided to
so Day of Glory became Day of Glory.
At some parts it did. It was so frustrating some parts, but just like you move a tany bit and it would just completely go blurry. So I was like, well, I can't have that. So there was a bit of a just sort of last minute, just figuring this out, and you make it work, play around with it.
Did you have any? I noticed there's a lot of wigs in your movies.
Definitely.
Have you had any sort of like wardrobe slips where like wigs are falling off or something?
So for our mother Elizabeth was, I think, the main one that had wigs, the most wigs for like the females as well. And after that, I was like, only will I use a wig again if I absolutely have to use a wig, because they were just so annoying. They would slip off and get kind of more messed up as time went on, so they didn't look as nice. And it's just they're not staying on. Another thing is veils. Veils are very hard to keep on.
You did think of like doing what most women who go to church do and pin them in.
When you have the veils, I think with the wigs on top of it, they pull the wigs off.
Right, of course.
And then one of the hardest veils I think was in Day of Glory for Our Lady, because that was actually a heavier material than the ones in Our Mother Elizabeth. Right. And I was like, this really is miraculous that Our Lady's veil stays on. That's it's like, for us, it was so hard to keep that on because I couldn't just pin through that as easily, the material. So that was a bit challenging. So just those little things that you think, we're going to film this quick scene, and you're like, well, this is suddenly not going as well as I thought, But there's always those little challenges, but I think basically you just have to expect them, and you work with it, and you roll with it, and you just kind of overcome
And
it.
I think you have a very forgiving audience, because the people, you're not charging money to go into the theatre.
Right.
And the people who are interested in this sort of stuff are just so happy to see wholesome, Catholic, edifying content. So I think there's going to be a lot of you know, a lot of leeway in
Right.
the little things. So I
Yes.
noticed that your sets are very professionally done, that every single detail is correct. And I don't want to throw you under the bus, Jude, but when I did see the pre-screening of the one you finished recently, I don't want to give it away to our viewers, but there were some things in the background so for example, there was one scene where the Protestant persecutor of the Catholics is having a conference, and it's in our dining room, and behind him are some Catholic imagery that weren't removed from the set. And I thought that would never happen with St. Genesius. The set would have been perfect. And it's because that movie spanned over so many years, started off as being just something that's going to be just for the family and nothing more to it, really. And they weren't too concerned about getting the set just right. But over time, it grew into a better production, and then decided, hey, this is worth sharing.
Right.
And so you could see that over time, the sets became more carefully set up. So,
Right,
you know, the earlier ones that were filmed, like, people
I
bothered with that.
I think with the movie that Jude's working on currently, it's gonna be a lot less of
Yes.
those little slip ups. I think we're paying more attention to detail on that one. So, yeah.
Right. So, well, that's good. And what sort of challenges did you find, Jude, apart from
Setting up sets.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
getting the actors?
well,
all
yeah,
the
well,
way.
obviously, when we make movies, because we have a lot of action, we need a lot of people to die. That's kind of, I'm constantly looking for extras who can die for me. And yeah, or even then, just having so many people who want to act, there's just hard. Yeah, it's just hard to get them all together sometimes, especially when you have scenes with multiple people from different locations. Especially people who they can commit, and then you finally get 3 different people from 3 different places to commit, and you need all 3 of them, and then the night before, one of them's like, sorry, I actually can't come anymore. Then you have to tell the rest of them, sorry, we actually can't do this anymore because said person is actually they can't come for whatever reason. No one intentionally just pulled out, but life happens and stuff. So when movie making is a lot of things happen to these people, so they can't come anymore. So that was one of the biggest things, which is why our movie took 4 years to film. Yes, and so that's probably one of the biggest.
I know that because of that challenge, after Hannah came here, being the seasoned film director and producer, she just told us a gem: don't involve people outside of your household because you're not going to be able to get them to all commit at the same time. So that was the best advice. So moving forward, you're going to try to limit the cast, I guess, to people who
At least
aren't
for the
interstate.
core cast, have
Yes.
them all be people you can get pretty
Together.
easily. Yeah, it's just like
Yes.
you have people coming from all over. Yeah, if you can do that for an occasional scene, like okay, we're all going together this day. But if it's every time you want to do a scene, you have to have everyone come. That's when it gets to just drag on because it's just everyone. Everyone has lives, and this isn't what their lives are about. Like they're not, just doing this. Their life isn't just about acting. So
Yes.
you can't expect them to just drop everything.
Yes. Well, they're not a bunch of siblings who are at
Yes.
home in their high school years or grade school years doing this for
Right.
fun. So we don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I'll ask is, so first, Jude, what other projects, or for Americans we'll say projects, do you have in the making that the traditional Catholic world can expect to see at some point in the near future or the maybe distant future?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier, I gave the spoiler too early,
Yeah.
but then we are making, we actually started making this even before the other one was finished. We're making a movie, another historical fiction movie about the Teutonic Knights, kind of to give us some backlog to why we are called Black Cross Studios. So there's that also, just because for at least I think 7 or 8 years, I just always knew that one day I'm going to make a Teutonic Knight movie, and I just kept pushing it off because I just knew that we couldn't. And then at this point, obviously because the Land of Conflict movie, we learnt so much over those 4 years of making that, and we got a lot better at everything pretty much, even just better equipment and stuff. So I thought now's the time we can make that. So our next movie is a historical medieval fiction movie about the Teutonic Knights.
And is there anything else in the making, or is that it?
Well, there's always a lot of ideas for future movies. It's kind of hard to not start writing scripts for other movies before you finish the other ones. Which I mean, I do have a few ideas, but they're all pretty much basically action, historical fiction with good Catholic storylines and themes.
Right. So yours is not quite so pious as St. Denise is, but still wholesome. And have you, I mean, it's difficult, your sister's gone to the convent, everyone's growing up, but are there any plans for more, or you're not sure?
So I'm still kind of working out how I'm going to go forward with that, because yes, my big helper and actress left. And then my brother's getting busy with just, growing up and now getting into work, school and work and everything. But I don't want to just drop everything and just have to stop. So I'm hoping to be able to make some more projects. They may have to end up being, just shorter, small productions, but I'd like to keep them up and maybe at some point do something with friends, but that'll have to be a dedicated, when we get together at some point, it'll have to be very organized to make that work. But I definitely don't want to just stop everything. So I have some ideas floating around what I could actually make. But I think
saints.
So far, a lot of my ideas are saints.
Right.
I may not do just that in the future. We also we had made just some fun, silly like skit type of videos we post, they're just fun to watch. So we might focus on just doing shorter things, or even if it's about saints, doing kind of more like Little Rose, which is like a short bit of a saint's life, and just focus more on the quality over quantity of even just in terms of length. Just keep things small, but keep them fun, keep them, keep the professionalism hopefully going up.
Yes.
And just try
and
to keep
people
keep
so
going.
busy nowadays, sometimes they'd rather just sit
Watch
down
something
and watch
that's
a
2
5-10
minutes.
minute
Yeah,
thing
exactly.
as opposed to
2
something longer.
Yeah.
And you might
easier.
become like Jude, you might become a professional headhunter for actors and actresses because now that your siblings are leaving.
It's hard to come by them.
Yes, yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to do my spoiler right now and tell our viewers that famous movie star Hannah Petrizzi is actually helping out Downunder and is actually in the movie that Black Cross Studios is about to launch.
That name in the credits is going to get us.
Yeah, well, that's why
just
with that first name, Hannah Petrizzi, we need to say no more. So anyway, look, it's great that you guys are doing this. It's great. I hope to see more, and maybe we might inspire other people who have an interest to just give it a crack.
Yeah, exactly.
And even just put it on YouTube if you don't.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's useful to have, and I'm telling you now, homeschooling mothers are always looking for wholesome entertainments for their children so they can put them in front of the screen, press play and go wash some dishes or go do some cleaning or something, and just to know that they're occupied with something that's safe and also beneficial. So that's really great you're doing it. And thanks so much for being on the show, Hannah. Thanks so much, Jude. And, there's a camera there. So to our viewers, thank you for watching. And I'm Theresa from True Restoration Press, and we'll catch you next time. Okay, thank you. And God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.